So we're really excited to present the whole Monet. Monet is nature and is probably the landscape painter of the 19th century that has the most intense relationship to nature and is questioning nature, is really analyzing nature in a way which is non-academically. It has nothing to do with the school, the great school of French painting, but really is empirical and has a lot to do with him being on site. He was traveling, he changed his center of life quite several times. I mean, he lived in Paris, he lived in Le Havre, he lived in Argenteuil, he lived in Véteuil, and every site, every space, every location really changes as well his work. And that has to do with the immediacy of his eyes, of what he sees and how this becomes art. So for us, it was really interesting to look at Claude Monet's work from the beginning to some of the very last paintings. We have the first painting that Monet ever exhibited, and we have one of the very last paintings that he worked on before his demise. And this whole arc of his work is what we are thrilled to present, and where we can really study and see how a painter gets inspired by nature, finds nature in dialogue with his art, with his work, and that, of course, is probably, with Claude Monet, one of the examples where you can see the dialogue between an artist and nature in a most wonderful way and in an incredibly intense way. For the Denver Art Museum, it is really a wonderful opportunity, an amazing opportunity to work together with Museum Barberini. And it came about at the opening of this fantastic institution here, where I was invited as a guest, and we had a few loans in the opening show. And I think the night of the opening, or maybe the next morning, we decided we got to do something together. And what could it be? And both of us, I think Otto Westheider, the director of Barberini, and I always were dreaming of a Monet show. I have a very personal relationship, like many others, with Monet, because he was probably really the one who introduced myself to modern art when I was an early teenager. And ever since, Monet played a role for me in my life, in my research, and books that I wrote or exhibitions that I made. Monet was always there. And so for me, it was a no-brainer to agree to a great collaboration and to really join forces here. The collection of Museum Barberini and the Denver Art Museum both are strong in Impressionists and are really particularly strong in the work of Claude Monet. So it was really a no-brainer for us, for Barberini and Denver, to say, why don't we really do something that probably as a museum person you only do once in your lifetime, maybe not even once in a lifetime. That is, let's do a big Claude Monet show together. And initially, it was interesting. We were thinking, do we do a certain aspect? Do we do certain years? Do we do just one sliver of his vast, incredibly rich work? And we decided we have the opportunity with both collections, with the collection of Barberini and with the Denver Art Museum. We really decided we have the opportunity to go large, and we have the opportunity really to do the whole bandwidth, the whole scope of Claude Monet's work in one show. And well, we did it. Interesting to ask yourself what is different from 40 years ago when you saw, or more than 40 years ago, I admit, when you saw the first painting. And now, I think to a certain degree, you always stay the same. I mean, there's always the little boy who's in awe of something that is larger and bigger and more unexpected than everything he has seen before. But you always try to rationalize it. I think the older you get, and particularly when you study art history or when you work at a museum or when you work as a curator, you always try to ask yourself, why is that? And what's the thought behind it? And you try to analyze your view and your way to approach things, to look at things. But I think the little boy never goes away. I think this first being in awe of something that's larger than yourself doesn't go away.